Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, we will be discussing how I bench 315 pounds and run a 4 minute and 52-second mile as a natural bodybuilder. Okay, so some background about me. I've been running for the past 15 years. I started running when I was 13 years old, and I am now 28 years old. And I've been running consistently for about 15 years. There have been some times where I ran more, when I ran less, but more or less, I've been running consistently for the past 15 years. I have been bodybuilding for the past 8 years. I started in December of 2017. I started as a 140-pound long distance runner at 9.9% body fat, and I bulked up to about 180 pounds, 12% body fat currently. So I found about 40 pounds of muscle in the past 8 years. And I, I, when I started bodybuilding, I didn't want to stop my cycling or endurance training. I definitely didn't want to stop running. So I figured out how to bodybuild and run competitively concurrently, and that's what we'll be discussing in this video pretty much. All right, that's about me. Step one. Um, you always have to prioritize lifting. Okay, so over the past 8 years of bodybuilding and running, I've you know um, ran multiple races. I've done 4 marathons. I've ran multiple 5Ks. I've ran 83 miles a week at my peak. I ran 2,500 miles in 2024. I ran 1,800 miles in 7 months this year. I ran 11,000 miles in the past 8 years. But no matter what I was training for, no matter if I was training to run a 16-minute 5K, a 36-minute 10K, a 250 marathon, whatever it was, no matter what I was training for, I always prioritize lifting no matter what. Okay. And this is where a lot of hybrids go wrong. This is where a lot of bodybuilders or a lot of muscular dudes who want to get good at running go wrong. Whenever they have an upcoming race, they'll switch their priorities to you know accommodate their race goals. So, for example, during marathon prep, a lot of bodybuilders um, or hybrid athletes rather, they switch their focus from lifting to running. So they're going to run more and lift less. And while that makes sense, it's very problematic. And it's very problematic because your gains, more specifically, your muscles decrease and your strength decreases, or they maintain it. But if you're reducing your training in the gym, it's most likely going to decrease in some capacity. And this is where they go wrong. So no matter what I've been training for, okay, no matter what I've been training for, I always prioritize lifting because I learned very quickly and I understood very quickly that if I ever stop putting my pedal to the metal when it comes to bodybuilding or lifting, my strength will decrease and my muscle will decrease. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been plenty of points in time where my muscle has decreased and my strength has decreased as a consequence of running more and lifting less. And that's how I have this insight to show it to you guys, okay? And so what does always prioritize lifting looks like? Now, that means you always lift prior to running, and it also means that no matter what you're training for at any given time, you always train with the same intensity, frequency, and volume. Okay, so let's say you're in a marathon prep. Let's say you want to run a marathon in 2 hours and 50 minutes, which is approximately 6 minutes and 30 seconds per mile for 26.2 miles. Okay, now what most hybrids do, they'll lift less, run more. Except what you want to do is you want to lift the same amount while running your high mileage. Now you might be thinking this is a ton of work, that's a lot of work. It is a ton of work and it's not easy. That's why very few people can run 315, can run a 4 minute mile and bench 315. Okay? It's extremely difficult. But you always lift prior to running. Okay, this is very important. I don't know what it is, but I've been doing this for 8 years, and I can tell you based on my observations in myself, and more importantly in others, that lifting prior to running always affects your lift. Okay, or excuse me, running prior to lifting always affects your lift. I don't care if you run at 7 a.m. and lift at 7:30 p.m. All right, I don't care if you run 10 miles at 7 a.m. Eat 5,000 calories between your 10-mile run and your hour lift at 7:30 p.m. Okay, your lift is still going to be affected. Okay, and if your lift is affected, right, your strength is going to decrease and your muscles will decrease. All right, so I don't care if there's a 12-hour break in between sessions and 5,000 calories consumed, your lift will still suffer. So you always want to lift weights prior to running. Again, this might not be possible for all of you guys. It might be very difficult, but I mean, what I do is right now, my schedule right now, I wake up at 4:30 a.m. Before work, I lift for 40 minutes, and during my lunch break, I'll run for 30 minutes. And so I'll lift for an hour and 10 minutes at my lunch break and in the morning before work. And then after work in the evening, I'll do my cardio. Now, some days I'll have like a lot of volume and I'll have to finish. I'll have to do a third workout. I'll have to do like one exercise after work. And if that happens, so be it. So I'll be spending a little bit more than an hour and 10 minutes in the gym. But normally I get all my work done before work during my lunch break. Okay. So you have to always find another way. Now, before I did that, I would just do my lift after work. I get off of work about 3:30, get to the gym about 3:50. I lift till about 5:10. I do my cardio after 5:10. Okay. But you have to figure out a way to lift before running, okay? Even if you have a big goal you want to hit, you always have to lift before running, okay? And do not train your intensity. I've always trained 6 days a week, no matter what I was training for, okay? Always train 6 days a week with the same intensity, same volume, okay? Now my routine. I lift 6 days a week, and my routine was as follows. It's changed, but it's always 6 days a week. Monday is chest and traps. Tuesday is lats and biceps. Wednesday is chest and triceps. Thursday is lats and shoulders. Friday is back and biceps and triceps. Friday morning is chest and biceps. Friday afternoon is legs. Saturday is chest. Okay, it's a bodybuilding routine. I was competing for. I'm still want to compete for a men's physique and classic physique competition. So I'm trying to specifically grow certain muscles that are necessary to be competitive or win in a classic physique and men's physique show. Before you all shit on the routine, um, I run 6 days a week. My running schedule is I take Tuesdays off, but there's 4 aerobic runs, and an aerobic run is just a run in which is relatively easy. It's a run at the pace in which I can have a conversation with someone pretty comfortably. Um, one long run, my long runs are anywhere from 12 to like 20 miles right now for 5K prep, and I have one workout a week. The workout is just dependent on where I am during my training. So if I'm early on in like a training block, do some threshold work. As we proceed through the block, I do some VO2 work, some anaerobic work, some strides, stuff like that. But that's generally how it is. I'll do strides twice a week as well, uphill and flat twice a week. Step 3, always eat at maintenance calories. Of course, if you're trying to bench 315, you always have to eat at maintenance calories, right? When you're running 60, 70, 80 miles a week, 50 miles a week, 40 miles a week even, your maintenance calories are going to be substantially higher. And so that means you have to eat a lot of food. Okay, so you're always eat at maintenance calories. And if you don't know what your maintenance calories are, you need to go to Google and search TDEE calculator. Okay, when I'm running and lifting, my maintenance is about 4,600 calories. Throwing cycling, it's close to 6,500. But I'd say on average, my maintenance is about 4,600 calories a day when I'm running about 70 miles a week in bodybuilding, maybe even a little higher. Also, I didn't write this down, but you want to eat enough protein. You need to be eating at least one. The literature says 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, but in my observation of myself and others, I'd recommend eating 1.25 grams of protein per pound of body weight, especially when you're doing lots of cardio, right? When you're doing lots of cardio, your body uses more protein. It burns more protein in addition to fat. So, because cardio, it burns off muscle, especially the more you do. Like this is high mileage stuff, okay? It's high mileage stuff. So you need to eat a lot of protein. I know it's hard. It's not eating protein is not easy because it's very satiating and filling. But again, benching 315 is not easy, and running a 4 minute 50-second mile is not easy. Okay, it took me 8 years to bench 315. All right, I ran 11,000 miles in 8 years, and it took me 8 years to bench 315. Okay, it's not easy. Some high protein foods: chicken breast, fish. I recommend tilapia, flounder, salmon, cod, tuna, Greek yogurt, egg whites, scrambled eggs, ground beef, ground turkey, beef liver. All right, step 4, sleep 7 hours. Now, sleep is very important. It's especially important for lifting, right? I could run pretty well on minimal sleep, but I could not lift well on minimal sleep. So I'd shoot for at least 7 hours. The more sleep, the better. But I noticed that when I got 7 hours of sleep, my gains, I felt pretty good in the gym. All right. So get at least 7 hours of sleep if possible. If you consistently, it's okay if there's a couple of days where you just can't get sleep, but if you consistently get less than 7 hours of sleep per night, especially as it pertains to your gains in the gym, you'll notice some effects in your gains in the gym. And last one is hydrate before lifting. So hydration for lifting is very important. I've noticed that the literature can back this up, but the literature is not really as important as anecdotal experience. So I lift in the morning before work. There's a huge like I'll sleep 8 hours and then I'll lift. So I wake up at 4:30. I'm at the gym at 5. I try to drink about 40 to 60 ounces of water before I get to the gym because I'm losing a lot of hydration as I sleep. And so this hydration before lifting is very important because if you're like even like slightly dehydrated, that can affect your performance in the gym by 10%. Now 10% might not seem a lot, but when you're benching 300 pounds and that takes your max from 300 to 270, that's pretty substantial. That's a 30-pound decrease. So you always need to hydrate before lifting. Of course, hydration is super important for cardio like running, but you need to always hydrate before lifting. I recommend a minimum of 1 gallon of water per day. The more the better, but being hydrated has a huge effect on your gains. Trust me, as someone who's been doing this for 8 years, take your hydration very seriously, okay? And that is how I bench 315 and run a 452 mile. I have pretty good genetics. My talent in running. I ran a 452 mile a few months ago as a 180-pound bodybuilder, but I also ran it as a freshman in high school when I was 15 at 130 pounds. So I've got talent for this. I have good genetics for bodybuilding. I don't have the best chest genetics, but I probably could have benched 315 earlier, like 2 years ago, had I done things differently. But anyways, that is how I do it. If y'all are interested, I offer coaching, how to bodybuild, how to get jacked, how to bodybuild and run concurrently. Links in the bio. And if y'all like the video, subscribe and leave a like, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.